Hello, and welcome to Pathophysiology. I am going to be your instructor for this course. My name is Professor Karen Riley. This video is going to kind of cover a very broad introduction to the idea of pathophysiology, and then subsequent videos will go into more detail about the various diseases and disease processes. In Patho 1, we are going to cover cellular injury, the nervous system, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the immune system, and genetics, primarily. All right, there are some other topics that'll be mixed in there, but what we're talking about when we talk about pathology, we're talking about a disease, okay? Pathophysiology are the changes in the body associated with disease. Oh. And there are going to be three things for this course that you want to pay attention to with each of the disease processes that we cover, okay? You want to follow the etiology, you want to follow the pathogenesis, and you want to follow the clinical manifestations. Now, the textbook may also go into treatments, but treatments for this course kind of go beyond the scope of what we're intending to do here. So what we're going to talk about really is at the cellular level, what happens to result in a disease process. All right? The first one we're going to cover is etiology. And etiology really means it gets at what the cause of the disease is. All right? And this can be many different things, including, but not limited to, genetics. So you've got a mutation at the DNA level that results in something mutated within the cell, and that causes the cell to misfunction, and that causes a disease process. All right? So this is going to be something that would be inherited. All right? There are also disease processes that are what's known, or etiologies that are known as congenital. And that means it's something that the individual is born with. All right? Now, something that's congenital can also be genetic. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Something that's congenital could also be an environmental impact. Okay? You could have disruptions in metabolism that happen. So you get the body's metabolism out of balance, and the chemical reactions within the body aren't occurring the way they're supposed to. Okay? You can have the etiology be something that's degenerative, meaning it happens over time. All right, so things like osteoarthritis would be an example of something over time, wear and tear on the joints causes degeneration. That degeneration causes cellular injury. Okay? You can have a misfunction associated with the immune system. You can have an infection, whether it be bacterial or viral, be the cause of a disease process. Nutrition is another one, okay? And then there are a couple on etiology that I'll kind of highlight, because these kind of are a little different. You can have something where the etiology is actually iatrogenic. That's an I, okay? Meaning loosely, either caused by a medical professional or a medical procedure. All right, if a medical procedure doesn't go correctly, That can cause damage and that can result in a disease state, okay? Then there is also idiopathic, okay? And these two students sometimes get mixed up because they do both start with I, very different reasons. Oop, that's not a good question mark. Let's do a better question mark. If something is idiopathic, it means currently it's not known what caused the disease or why the disease results, okay? So this isn't meant to be a complete list. It just kind of gives you an idea. There are many different things that can cause disease. When I talk about etiology, I will primarily be talking about one of these processes, okay? Now, I also said you want to focus on pathogenesis. Now, pathogenesis is the progression of disease. Really, you can think about this as the steps in the disease process that happen. So with things like cancer, you're going to have cells that start dividing when they're not supposed to. That's the first step. But those cells that divide when they're not supposed to don't always result in cancer. There can be other mechanisms in the body to help control that and prevent that from happening. In addition, you might need additional steps for the cancer to actually happen, whether those be environmental or otherwise, okay? So how the disease progresses, what happens as far as injury at a cellular level is what we'll focus on in this course. And then last, clinical manifestations, okay? With clinical manifestations, you're talking about how the disease presents to you as a healthcare provider, okay? With that, you can have signs of disease. These are something you can measure, all right? You go in, the nurse or doctor takes your temperature is higher than it should be. That's a sign that there's something not right with the body, potentially of an infection, although not always, all right? Usually though, okay? You can also have symptoms associated with the clinical manifestations. These are things that the patient is going to report to you, okay? I have a headache. I have an upset stomach, all right? Those are not things that you as a clinician or a healthcare provider can measure, okay? Another sign might be tests that are run. That also could be an indication of disease, okay? So signs and symptoms, you want to be able to classify what comes up as a sign. When you're talking about a sign, it's something that's measurable. Symptom typically is self-reported by the patient, and it's a feeling, all right? They don't feel right, all right? And associated with clinical manifestations a little bit, there are diseases that are classified as syndromes, okay? Things that are syndromes, there's a disease process there. But the signs and symptoms aren't either well-defined or can have a lot of variation. All right. This is just kind of a brief overview to things. I want to thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please let me know.